stop yourself. Before you get advice from someone, ask yourself, is this person a reliable source? What has this person been through for me to believe what they're saying is true? Why should I believe them? After this video, you understand why you can't just take advice from anybody unless they're a reliable source. Because remember, if you haven't been in my shoes, you can't tell me how to walk, so be careful. How can you take advice from someone that's never done what you are trying to do? What experience can someone give you about something that they never experienced before? Yo, YouTube, welcome back. This is on day 13. So today's focus is who you should be taking advice from and whether or not they're a reliable source for you to listen to. Because often, a lot of times, people like to give advice on things that they've never done, they've never experienced. So where is the actual information you're getting this from? Is this a secondhand, source of information you're giving me, or is it something that you experienced? And a lot of times, we get advice from people that are not doing what we do or haven't done what we've done, and that often leads us to destruction. After today's video, you'll be more knowledgeable and more informed on, who you should be taking advice from and who you should just be listening to just to hear them out. Because sometimes, wisdom could, play a big part in things, and you might just want to listen to somebody because you never know. It may change your perspective on something, but actually taking advice and, taking action off of someone's information, you got to be mindful of who it is and what they've done to feel like they can give you the information to guide you in the right path. Day 13, let's get right into it. Have you ever been in a situation where, you're probably going through something and you receive information from someone that, question whether or not they're qualified to actually give you the information, so you still, let them talk. Not really too sure whether or not you should take their advice or not. But let's think about it. If we're talking about, if we're comparing a doctor to an athlete, and a doctor's trying to give an athlete, information on how to become a professional athlete, think about it. What information can a doctor give someone that's trying to be an athlete if they've never been an athlete themselves? So let's think about it. If you have a doctor trying to give an athlete advice on what they can do to, maybe say become a professional athlete, what real information can they give them if they haven't done it themselves? If someone's been a doctor their entire life, for over 10, 15, 30 years, and they're trying to give advice to a basketball player on how to become a professional athlete, what real information can they give you? Think about it. Have they been to the NBA before? Have they played in any professional leagues? Have they become a pro before? Have they even played the sport? So what real information can you take from a doctor giving you information on how to become a professional athlete? Think about it. Can they tell you what it's like working out every morning? Can they tell you what it's like having to push through even when your days are bad, but to still fight through? Can they tell you about the mindset? Can they tell you what it's like having teammates? Can they tell you what it's like, changing your diet? You gotta think about these things. If we get information from people that have not done what we are doing and they have no experience in that field, a lot of the time it's just information being passed around that they feel they can, kind of give to anybody without actually being a part of this experience, without actually knowing, what this is really about. You can't just sit up here and try to give me advice on something that you've never done. Well, maybe you could, but how reliable is your source? How can you tell me how to feel about something? How can you tell me what to do if you've never done that before? How can you tell me how to respond if you've never been in that situation to respond in a situation as such? So that's what you got to think about. Now, don't get me wrong. Even from a doctor's perspective, there may be some things that you could, relate to in a sense of just becoming a professional or being well seasoned. Because, at the end of the day, hard work and success, there's still similar characteristics that every successful person experience, whether you're an athlete, a doctor, a chef, a driver, whatever the case may be. There's always some common characteristics that you do have to have. But to get in specifics, it's different. You don't know too much. You don't know what it's like unless you've actually been in that situation. So here's how I would look at it. If I was trying to become a professional athlete and I was receiving advice from a doctor, I'd probably listen just because of the success aspect. They went through something to push through, and I'm doing the same. So there's still something that you could take from it. But as far as taking all the advice, you have to question that. What experience can someone give you about something that they never experienced before? And you have to understand that. How can you take advice from someone that's never done what you are trying to do? It's wishy-washy. You could look at it from different perspectives, but at the end of the day, when it comes to people being successful, they all share certain characteristics. But when you start dissecting into things and trying to figure out what's what, how to do this, be mindful of, whose advice you take. Because the only person that can really tell you and give you the best advice on how to become a professional athlete is a professional athlete, because they've been in your shoes. They've walked the same way you've walked before. They've experienced the same things you experienced before. They've done it all. And you're trying to get to where they're at. So they have nothing but experience, real life experience and knowledge to give you. And that's what you got to understand. You'll be more set up for success hearing information from or getting advice from another pro athlete versus a doctor. Although there's some characteristics that may be similar, but overall, even vice versa, a professional athlete can't give someone that's trying to be a doctor advice either. Although there's some characteristics of success that they still share, but to actually be in the field and, work on human beings and do surgery and things of that nature, a professional athlete can't direct you towards that. They never had any hands-on experience. And the biggest thing is the hands-on experience. So you got to remember that. Now, don't get me wrong, people can always give you advice on things. When it comes down to like the hands-on aspect, that's where you draw the line. The point I'm trying to make is this. People are going to give you advice. Some people are going to be credible, and some people are, just speaking out of what they heard or what they did, what people around them have done and that they can relate to. So you got to look at it as this, right? You got to look at information as like the internet. Some things are reliable, some things are not, but it's still good to kind of, I guess, know in a sense so that you're still knowledgeable at the same time. So like the same way you look up something on Google and a whole bunch of things will come up, you got to understand not everything's going to be true. Some of it's not, but just know if someone's not in your field, they can't give you any advice. If someone hasn't done what you've done or been in your shoes, they can't properly give you the best advice you need to set yourself up for success. And that's what you got to understand. Information is going to come out, opinions are going to come out, but the actual information you need to take action is only going to come from someone that's been in your shoes or that's experienced the same things that you have done. Even from a relationship perspective, when you think about, let's say, someone single trying to give relationship advice to someone that's in a relationship, you got to question that, because you got to think, this person's single for a reason, and maybe it could be for their own reasons. Maybe it could just be for their own personal choice. But a lot of times, when people are single, they've experienced something that, in their past relationship didn't work out. And 9 times out of 10, one person is more bitter than the other person. So the information they can give out may not be the best information if you're looking for advice on how to stay with your partner. So if you have someone that's single, that's recently got out of a bad relationship, and they're trying to give advice to someone that's in a relationship, you got to think about what they're saying, because obviously they've been in your shoes before, but the situation has changed. The dynamics have changed. One person's trying to be in a relationship, and another person is just, being single. So if someone's in a relationship and they're asking, someone that's single how to, maintain their relationship or what advice they should get if something's going wrong, 9 times out of 10, if that single person is bitter, they're going to give you all the advice you need to break up with that person. They're going to give you all the advice you need to not be with that person anymore. They're going to fill your brain up with imaginary thoughts that's going to eventually lead you to want to, be single as well. This is just from a person that, is bitter, that's got out of a bad relationship and probably just in their ways. So you have to be mindful to that, especially if that person's miserable. Taking advice from a single miserable person is never usually a good thing, because the only thing they have is a whole bunch of, hate and anger towards their past relationship that they're trying to pass on to someone that's happy in their relationship. So you got to be mindful of who you're taking advice from, because depending on who it is can really dictate whether it's useful information or if this is just information that's going to cause you on the road to destruction. Because you think about it, any red flags you tell them about your current relationship, everything's going to be the worst. They're going to give you every single way to be done with that person. Every single way to say that this person's cheating on you. They're going to tell you every single way that, this person's not for you. You need to be single. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. Because of what they experienced. And the whole time, you can be in a relationship, y'all could just be going going through some things, trying to figure things out. Maybe it's just part of that relationship, where y'all just going through stuff, y'all growing together and trying to figure things out. It don't necessarily always mean you have to be done or, cancel that person out. Y'all still trying to figure things out, even though y'all butting heads, but y'all still trying to make things work. But you ask advice from someone that's, not in a relationship, they're going to tell you just be done. Get rid of that relationship. Get rid of that person because they're bitter and they want you to be just like them. Remember, misery loves company. If they feel like they need to be single, they're going to try to bring you down just with them. That's just you being in a relationship with someone and taking advice from someone that is single. So you got to be mindful of that and understand what they've done, how it can benefit or harm you right now. Now, on the other hand, if there's two couples, and they're both obviously in a relationship and they're trying to get information or advice on how to do something or just on that current situation. If you're in a relationship and you ask for advice from someone that's also in a relationship, then 9 times out of 10, it's going to be more engaging. It's going to be more, informative because y'all are both in a relationship. 9 times out of 10, y'all both experience similar things. And, they're going to give you the best advice for you to figure it out with your partner, make things work, make sure you don't give up. That's the difference between taking advice from someone that's in a relationship and that's not in a relationship. Someone that's in a relationship right now is currently, making things work with their partner. And the only advice they can give you is the same advice that they're going through. Make things work, figure things out, try harder, love harder, do things different, all the above. And that's why you got to be mindful on who you receive your information from. I just mentioned 2 different scenarios. Being in a relationship with someone and taking advice from a single person, and then being in a relationship with someone and taking advice from someone that's in a relationship as well. Both information can be, useful in a sense, but if you're in a relationship, you're going to 10 times out of 10, you're going to want to take advice from someone that's also in a relationship to see whether or not what you're doing is right or what you need to improve on just the proper ways of going about certain things or how to handle certain things in a relationship so that you all can stay secured and, things don't fall out. Versus someone that's not in a relationship, taking advice from them, they're going to tell you just to be done with that person, be single, be outside, things of that nature. So just be mindful of who you're actually taking their information from and who you're actually, whose information you're running with and taking action with. Because it makes a big difference. Remember, misery loves company and happiness loves happiness. So be careful. Now, there's other scenarios where, the dynamics can change a little bit. Obviously, just wisdom and experience in life can ultimately make the big difference on who you're taking it from. When you think about a scenario of a school system or, a classroom, and you have an urban kid and their teacher has no experience dealing with urban kids or being in that community or knowing what's going on in that community, then the real question comes down to what advice can they give them or how can they, help them in their day-to-day life. I'm going to be completely honest. The only way someone that's not urban can get to an urban kid is to understand them. You got to understand them because if you don't, there's nothing you could tell an urban kid that's gonna make them understand or just listen to what you're saying. And the main reason because of that is the experience. A lot of kids go through a lot of hurt. A lot of kids go through a lot of trauma on a day-to-day basis, and then they come to school. What advice can you give someone about that if you ain't never been through it? How can you tell them how to feel? How can you tell them really what to do? I mean, you can give your best advice, but until you've been in those situations where it's really life or death and you have to fight for your own, you can't really speak on that situation. The best way to get to them is to understand them. Understand what's going on without judging. Because today's world, these kids are going through so much stuff, and they're only gonna be able to be open to people that understand them. Y'all can come from 2 different worlds, but when you understand, you can reunite that way. You can understand each other. You can give them that open space to talk and figure things out. But you can't just come in and think that, just because I'm older than you, I'm gonna tell you what to do now, and I have no experience in the situation that you've been going through. This is for real. This is real life stuff. And that's how a lot of times, there becomes a disconnect between teachers and students, not knowing what they've been through and trying to make it seem like they know what to do. But there's no right or wrong answer to that when it comes to, how they go about stuff as a student. But even in this field, it's like, all right, you're right. I haven't done what you've done. I have never been in any type of experiences that you experienced. But as an adult, I experienced life, and I know what I can do to help you and direct you in the right path of life. So this is the difference between, being in someone's shoes and still giving them information. And this is what I mean by this. So although you never experienced anything, but as an adult and experiencing life, you can still give valuable information to someone. Although you haven't been in their shoes, you can still open their eyes up to certain things so that they can make the right decision. But you can't necessarily tell them what to do. There's a difference. And you gotta understand, like I said, urban kids go through a lot of different things. It's a lot of different things that shape them into the way they are now, the way they act, how they talk. And that's just the reality of things. But as an adult and having experience over life over them, having more years put in, you can still offer some type of advice that they can take. Maybe not to take action, but to open up their eyes and kind of see things from a different light. But this is why you got to be mindful of what you say, how you say it, because you're coming from two different worlds. But the only way you can understand each other is to come to some type of common ground where there's understanding between both worlds. And it takes a lot, but you gotta understand what you say, how you say it can make a big difference. And this is real stuff right here. What I'm getting ready to say is real. Like, it's for real, for real. And some of y'all may feel the way about it, but this is the reality of it. When you talk about middle schools, high schools, and things of that nature, right? You have kids that are fighting for their life on their way to school and after they leave school, literally fighting for their life. So who are we to tell them how to protect themselves? Kids are bringing guns to schools, knives to school, and pepper spray, all type of shanks, because they're facing war when they leave school. And who are we to say, how to protect yourself? Because the normal thing is, if you're in danger, call the police, call somebody. But people don't understand when you're in that situation, when you're right there in the moment, it's going to be too late. Your survival instincts kicked in. Or if you're outnumbered, you have to do what you got to do to fight, to defend yourself. Now, let's get this clear. I'm against violence. I'm not promoting any type of violence, but what I am promoting is protecting yourself. Kids are getting jumped day to day. Kids are getting robbed day to day. And their only source of protection is a weapon. So how can you tell someone what to do and what not to do when they have to be in survival mode before seeing you and after they see you? How can you tell them what to do and what not to do? Because once they leave those classrooms, once they leave those doors, it gets real. And the only people they got is their self. So what advice can you really give them? This is a real conversation. This is a real situation. This happens all the time. What advice can you give someone, a student, that's to fight day to day on their way to school and when they leave? Who are you to tell them what they can and cannot bring to defend themselves? It's not right or wrong, but we all got to defend ourselves. We all got to protect ourselves. We all got people that's relying on us. We all got to get back at home, make it safe. So what information can we give them? So it's just like, honestly, when you think about that situation and when you think about, who you get your advice from or information from, you have to honestly think about the scenario, think about the person, and think about, whether or not this is really going to be useful or not. Because although someone that has not lived in the urban area, they can still give you advice on what to do or how to do things. But someone that's in the urban area will know the difference. You can't always do things the textbook way. You have to do things the real way. And, things just got to change. This is just to get you all to think about, who you get your advice from and, whether or not they're a reliable source or not. Like I said, like if it's a teacher trying to give advice to an urban kid that, has to fight day to day to school and after school, what can you really tell them? Unless you're going to be escorting them day to day to work. Day to day to school, or you get them out of that environment. It's tough, but this is the reality of things, and this is why violence is so high now. This is why there's so much killings and shootings and stabbings and things of that nature now going on, because it's a war zone, and kids are going through a war zone on their way to school and when they leave. And if you're outnumbered, With no weapon, your chances to defending yourself now is really slim to none. This is why there's so many tools and guns and knives that are being brought to school. A lot of times it's not even because they want to do it, it's because they have to protect themselves. Because if not, who's going to protect them? Not the teacher in school. They get into altercation and, you expect them to call you. What are you going to do? Probably 9 out of 10, you're probably an hour away. By the time you even get there, whatever's meant to be done is already done. So you have to fight. This is what y'all don't understand. But it's a story of an urban kid. You gotta, like I said, you can give the best advice you can give, but the best way to really get to someone like that is to come to a common ground and understand them and proceed from there. But this is not all the answers you need. This is just something to make you think about and understand, who you get your advice from and who you should be taking the proper steps from. Who you can take the advice from that, you can take the proper steps to, or who the advice can you take that may not lead you to the right direction. And you gotta know the difference. All right, y'all. So we're wrapping up day 13, with some useful information. I hope I was able to provide some type of useful information for you to take away, on your day-to-day life. Or this is something that you can give and share to a friend or a family or a loved one to help them, make the right choice on who you take advice from and who you should be mindful of, what they say. At the end of the day, you want to take advice from someone that has experienced in what you're doing. But it's still okay to take advice from people that, are not necessarily in your field, because you can still, receive information or knowledge from someone that hasn't necessarily experienced what you did, but has had partners or friends or family members that have done what you've done, and they, experienced it secondhand on. So they can still provide you with some type of useful information. But as far as, taking the proper steps on truly knowing how to feel in those situations, stick to the people that are in the field or that are doing what you're doing or that experience what you experience. Because remember, if you haven't been in my shoes, you can't tell me how to walk. If you haven't done what I've done, you can't tell me how to feel. If you haven't, felt the pain I felt or felt the adversity that I felt, you can't tell me how to feel. Just be mindful of that and, understand that everybody's advice, there's certain ways you can funnel it. You can funnel and tunnel people's information. You can still learn something from it. But as far as, taking the proper steps, make sure that person's reliable. Make sure that person's done what you've done, and make sure they've experienced what you experienced before you take action on that information. I appreciate y'all for tuning in, and that's day 13 wrapping up. We almost at that halfway mark of this 30-day challenge, and I'm excited to see what's gonna happen when I get to the 30 days. So I appreciate y'all for tuning in, and it's a journey. It's a journey, but we are locked in, we are focused, and we're gonna get to where we need to get to. So if y'all new, welcome, and if you've been rocking out, I appreciate you. Keep rocking out because I won't upset you, and we're gonna keep growing, and that's what we're gonna do. All right. So it's your boy Big Sitchy. It's day 13. We are signing out. Wait, is it day 13? It is day 13. It's day 13. I'm signing out, and I'm gonna see y'all on day 14. All right. Appreciate y'all. It's your boy Big Sitchy. I'm gonna see y'all on day 14. Peace.